This video is to talk about what our algebra flipped classroom looks like at Truitt Middle School. When we talk about the flipped classroom, what is a flipped classroom? Well, what class looked like before we started doing this flipped classroom, was students would come in, they'd get out their homework, we would go over some homework problems, and we'd work out as many as they needed, usually 3 to 5 problems, and that would take about 5 to 10 minutes. Then we would discuss what we were going to learn that day and start our lesson. The lesson would take anywhere from 10 to 25 minutes, depending on how complex the topic was, and then students would spend any remaining time starting on their homework. Sometimes there was very little time left to practice, maybe like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It was an exciting day if we got 15. With our flipped classroom, what it looks like is the kids come in and instead of discussing homework, we talk about the previous night's video. And then I answer questions they have about that lesson. If they need me to, then I can complete additional examples about the lesson. This usually takes somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes, and we begin practice. So practice might look like kids working individually or with partners while I pull small groups of students who struggled. And I can tell that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I can tell you what that looks like based on the uh, the Edpuzzle website. It may look like the whole group where we're playing a game or we're all working together to solve problems, or it may be small groups where they're in groups of 3 to 4 people working on an assignment on the computer or working on a card match or working on some activity together where they're working together to test their understanding. So why are we doing this? Well, I think the most obvious benefit is that the kids, well, first of all, we get more practice time, but on-demand access to course content. So if they're not, they can get this video anytime. It's on YouTube and on Edpuzzle, so they can get the information as they want it. They can pause and rewind the video. So in class, if I say something they don't understand, they can't stop, rewind, and have me say it again so they can make sure they understand it. But you can do that when you're watching a teacher video. If you're absent, you don't have to worry about missing anything. So if you have a doctor's appointment, it's okay if you have a doctor's appointment because you can just watch the video. You watch the video, come back and ask if there were any activities you missed and finish those on your own time because you've already learned the concepts. And you have more opportunities to practice in class, and I think that's a really big one. They have the support of their teacher and peers instead of practicing at home with only their notes to help them. In addition, because I wanted to make it fair, if we're learning a new concept, I don't assign homework on the same night as a video. The only time they would have homework on the same night as a video is if they've forgotten, if we did an assignment in class and they didn't complete it, or if they're wanting to do additional practice. We have homework on nights without videos because they've seen the lesson, and obviously if we didn't have a video, that means we practiced that day and they've had a chance to ask questions. They're not learning on their own. How does this help you? The way this helps you, a lot of the new ways that we teach math, we actually learned them, but we learned them so early in elementary school, we don't really remember them. But some of the new ways that we teach math, they're just new and we never did them that way. If you're trying to help your child and you can't figure out what method we're using, you can pull up any of our lesson videos on YouTube and see exactly how we learned it. So if your child says, but that's not how Miss Deal did it, great, go out, you can see exactly how Miss Deal did it. It also lets you, if your kids say, I don't know how to do this, you can say, hey, go out and watch the video again. Go to YouTube, go to Edpuzzle, rewatch the video, and they can either clarify or they can make a list of questions they can ask me when they come in the next day. So let's talk about what the video lessons are. How do they find their video lesson? Well, every day in class, I let them know on our presentation slide twice. I tell them actually two to three times. I remind them that they have a video lesson or a homework assignment. If they have a video lesson, it will appear in their Edpuzzle app or on their website, whichever one they prefer to use, after school, the day they're expected to watch it. Sometimes it'll appear earlier in the day, but usually it's there definitely after school. Any note pages, so if there's notes they need to record their work on, they'll be sent home with them the night before. If they lose them, they can go to my teacher webpage and download them. There's a calendar on the flipped classroom section of my teacher webpage. That link is at bit.ly/dealmath. And if you click on flipped classroom, there's a calendar and it tells you whether we have homework, which is in yellow, or a video, which is in blue. It has a link directly to the video. So if something happens and they can't watch it, they can go that link directly to the video on YouTube. So so they can watch the video right from there. It also, if there's any notes, there's a link to those to download them. And if there's any additional things they might need, like for example, sometimes we'll use algebra tiles, we'll have a link to digital, so electronic or computerized algebra tiles that they can use to help them with that lesson. So Edpuzzle, I've talked about Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is the program that I'm using. I upload all of the videos to YouTube, but then I import them into a website called Edpuzzle. And what Edpuzzle lets me do is it lets me add a layer on top of the video that adds questions to various parts of the lesson. So I can see how they're doing. I can ask them I can ask a question and see how they answer it to figure out whether or not they understand it, or I can give them a chance to try it and give me their answer and see if they get it right, or if there's anything. If I'm starting to see the same wrong answer, I understand, I know what I need to go over. This helps me assess how well they understand the content and lets me know what I need to clarify the next day. So what are the students going to see? When you look at the web page, at the page, you'll see a few things. So first of all, you can see that, like if I look at this student right here, this video, this is what I see on the website. So if I'm logged into the website, I see this video I haven't watched, I haven't answered any questions, and I haven't gotten any of them right. There's a button here to click to start. If there's a due date, which they always, this is the start button to watch the video. If there's a due date, it'll be listed right here. And this is the name of the video. And I usually I start the videos with the date that we watch them. So 2/6 would be February 6th, which is when we watch that video. Their class will have like their class periods, like it'll say first period, second period, third period, when they're watching it. Now, if they're watching on the app, which is a phone app, this is what they'll see. It looks very similar. They see, like in this case, they see their class. They see over on this side, when they go into the class, they can see videos that are in their queue to watch, or ones that they've watched recently. They can see, like, so for example, this one here says it's not started. This one says it's not finished. If there's a due date, it'll be right here. And if they want to see how they answered the questions or kind of review what they did, they can click here for progress, and it'll tell them how they've done, how they answered each question, if there's any comments that I've left for them. And then obviously if they just click here, that'll take them to the video. This is what watching a video looks like. If you're on the website, this is what they're going to see. And as you can see right here, every one of these little green things here is a question that I'm asking them. So as you can see in this video, it was about 16 minutes long, and there were a whole lot of questions asked during the video. On the application, this is what they see, and it's similar. Right here, every one of these little yellow thingies is the video, and you can see right here that they're coming directly from YouTube. And you can also see here what kind of questions you're going to be asked and at what time. Over here, you see, well, this is just basically the same thing, but you can see the kind of same thing. There's open-ended, and I can also ask multiple choice questions. This is what it looks like when they're answering a question. Most of the kids use the app, which is why I'm showing the app. If they're asked to answer a question, this is what an open-ended question, like, so a free answer or free response question. When they're done, they hit submit, and when they hit submit, it tells them that their answers have been submitted. Now, questions that are open-ended like this, I have to manually check those questions, and I do every night like in the evening, and I check in the morning before class to make sure I know how they're doing and what they're seeing. This is what a multiple choice question looks like. When they're when they're being asked, it looks blue when they select their answer. After they submit, they can scroll back through their answers. If it's correct, it's green. I don't have a wrong answer, but if it's wrong, it's red. And I believe it has the correct answer highlighted. So what do I see? So that's what they see. What do I see? Well, I can see when I look at this class, so this is my first period algebra class, I can see all of the videos. I can see when they were due. I can see what % of the kids completed it. I can click here to get more information about the lesson. Okay. When I actually click on that lesson, I see a lot of information here. So when it's gray, like, I can see if somebody didn't even bother watching the video. This student started to watch it but didn't finish it. I can also see all these kids with check marks here. They actually watched the video all the way through, but if you can tell, I can see that like this student here didn't do very well. They struggled. So I need to work with them in a small group, or I need to get with them and figure out what happened. These students that are green, they can probably work by themselves. They're probably ready. And I can see right here that there are 6 responses that I need to look at. So there's some responses I need to check and see what their how they responded to those questions and get an idea of where they're at. I can also look more closely at the specific questions. So I can see right here, when I look at the names, this is clearly they don't know how to find a last name of a polynomial, because last name, full name, which includes last name, last name. They're not feeling okay about naming these polynomials. So I need to go back over that tomorrow. So this gives me, again, I can look specifically at the questions. I can also look specifically at the question and see exactly how they answered. So I can see here that when I asked them about that last name, they didn't do well in this question. Well, 14 of them picked monomial, which they were supposed to, but I can see that 13 of them picked something else. So I got to figure out where I went wrong in giving them that information and see how I can clarify that information for them. I can also look at a specific student. I can see exactly how they answered each question. I can see which questions at what point in the video they got them wrong. So for example, if they're getting stuff wrong at the beginning, but they start to get it right at the end, then even if they didn't do well, I might know that that tells me that they probably actually were starting to get it by the end. So I might just need to check in on them. I might not need to pull them into small group. Likewise, I can see a student who did well. So this student got 92% of the questions right, answered 11 out of 12 correctly, but I can also see that this student watched the video twice. So I might check in with this student and say, hey, I saw that you watched the video twice. Is everything okay? It gives me a lot of really valuable information. So what if something goes wrong? So Edpuzzle is a layer on top of YouTube, and anytime you add a layer to something, there's a possibility of it kind of going haywire. Well, the backup plan is YouTube. So I get a lot of very good information out of what kids understand from the lesson, but honestly, if they can't watch the lesson, information is great, but what I need is for them to watch the lesson. So if something goes wrong and they can't get to Edpuzzle, they can watch it on YouTube. Their notes are their proof that they watched the video. So as long as they follow along and complete the examples, they're not going to be penalized for not watching on Edpuzzle. In that same link, that Flip Classroom link on my teacher webpage, you can find direct links to the videos in my calendar on my teacher webpage. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to send me an email or give a call. I'd be happy to answer your questions. My email is the email address that I sent you this link through. And again, I hope you understand that it's not that I don't want to teach your kids. I do want to teach your kids. I want us to have more time to have valuable practice. I want them to be able to practice in the classroom instead of trying to figure out at home. If I do choose to grade them on this, I'm not going to be grading them on whether they answered the questions right. I'm going to be grading them on what % of the videos they watched. I want to make sure that they watch the videos. If they watch 100% of the videos and they get a whole lot of questions wrong, that's okay. That tells me what they need help with, but they're doing what I need them to do, which is watch these videos. Again, any questions that you have, please feel free to give a call or shoot an email. Thank you very much.